Episode of the Order of the Towel for 2024. Thank you so much for being here. Peter, it's great to see you. Cheryl, it's great to see you. Everyone's got their towels. I said that I would promise by telling you the story of my chaplain pin on here. That's going to have to wait because we are going to try to cram some stuff in tonight, which is going to be a super fun adventure. Let's see how well we can do it and still make sense. So we've got the Order of the Towel here, and the Order of the Towel, just to refresh, is this totally ties into my pin. Well, I'll do the super short version. The Order of the Towel was inspired by my experience in Boy Scouts of having discrete goals to build to with a set of merit badges, and every merit badge having multiple channels through a set of activities. And so what it's a very good way to do is to organize a pathway through knowledge for other people. And Peter, you and I talked about this a lot early on in our friendship. You were talking about loops and different kinds of approach to knowledge and collecting knowledge and such. And I still think that the merit badge system and just like a badge system with a set of requirements that kind of has different branches through it, but essentially validates a certain practical hands-on kind of knowledge is the best way to get adults to do stuff. The badge could be, can be substituted for some kind of reward or something else. But what's cool about the badge is it's statusy, but it's also just personal because you've got to actually take the time to like put your towel on, just like you used to have to like put on like your Boy Scout uniform or whatever, like actually get in uniform in a certain way. But anyway, Boy Scouts was founded by the American Legion, and the American Legion was founded when United States and French and British forces were occupying Paris, and they were like just outside of Paris, and they knew they were going to win the war. They were closing in on Paris, and there was like a week. They had like a week where they were going to actually take it or something like that, and they kind of looked at each other and said, the thing about Nazism that's so absolutely terrible and abhorrent is that they're saying, oh no, we're just gonna kill our sick and our old. We're gonna put eugenics, to work here, and we're gonna just cull the herd. And people were like, you can't just kill the sick people and the old people just because they're that, and you guys are bad. And they're like, no, we're gonna do this. And not only are we gonna do it where we're doing it, we're gonna do it where you're living too. And they're like, that's it, no more. And so it was this real call to arms around the world, getting everybody together for World War II. There was a great mission and a great challenge involved. And so when these gentlemen are closing in on Paris, they look at each other and go, this feeling that we have right now, that we can do like anything, this has all been prompted by this horrible scourge that was Nazism and this war. How could we do this without the Nazi part? Like, how could we motivate ourselves to do crazy and amazing and next level stuff and just never stop? Because we can clearly do anything. So like, how do we do that? And so the American Legion was formed under that auspice to like essentially do awesomeness when you return home because they knew they were going to win the war. And the American Legion in America, there were some international versions of it or whatever. The American Legion was the version that created the Boys State. Boys State was just for boys for a long time. I think they might do girls now too, but I'm not sure. But it was for like preparing people to be politicians in the world, and the giving them kind of like the background and such and the character to do that well. So it was like character injection for politics. And then the Boy Scouts was military preparedness for young men. Their goal was to keep the military mindset warm in the next generation, even though there wasn't an actual war going on. And how would one do that? How would you actually be ready? So they had experiences of boot camp and like basic training and stuff like that. And they kind of broke down the knowledge that you would need. Well, you need to survive on your own in the woods. Well, you'd need to be able to make a fire. Well, you need to be able to go find some food. You need to be able to skin the animal and like prepare it over the flames, do this kind of stuff. So they put that all into tracks of knowledge that became the merit badge system. And that was like, so the whole Order of the Towel that's where these roots come from. And that's where my dang chaplain badge comes from. I was a chaplain for a Sons of the American Legion chapter for a number of years. It was my job to pray for everybody in the group and talk to them if they had spiritual questions and stuff. Most of these people were pretty heavily practicing Catholics and such, so they weren't terribly interested in discussing this with me. But or their sources for it. But it was really fun to be able to pray with a lot of people and basically have the spiritual responsibility for a group. It's a very cool way to go. The chaplaincy was very cool. And the founding charter of the American Legion, Sons of the American Legion, is just crazy cool. Like, it's like they were like all about the awesomeness and like moving it forward. And so the Order of the Towel in kind of carries on that tradition in a certain way by giving yourself a place to actually build the awesomeness that you wish to build, and it's very open-ended. Now, we were talking about the triple stack. You've got the first part of the stack, which we've gotten through now, which is heart math and the social intelligence component. You also have the getting things done stack, which is what we're going to get to tonight, and hopefully a little bit of Scrum as well. And the first part with the heart math, it's the heart math, which is like opening up your own vagus nerve and centering in that and being able to stay in that heart-brain coherent state. And it is also the awareness that more than half of your nervous system is only activated when you see the face of another person and you're talking to another person, like you care. And so that was part of the thing with the looping and turning on your nervous system. And then you got the formula that we had for caring was very, very, very simple. It was, remember the story of the Good Samaritan, and it didn't really matter sort of what people's larger intentions were in a certain way. People, if you had enough time, then you could actually pay attention. And if you paid attention, you could start the looping, you could start the caring. So this second part here of our triple stack is where the personal time and task management kind of starts kicking in with the GTD, the getting things done. This comes from David Allen. David Allen's book, Getting Things Done, is the work that he kind of compiled this all into. He has training seminars and all kinds of different stuff. But what I'm going to give you tonight is a very brief kind of it's not even really going to be like a summary because we're just going to touch on kind of like the larger areas of getting things done, but you can definitely start doing getting things done tonight if you do this. So here's the book, the Getting Things Done, The Art of Stress-Free Productivity. If you go to maps.decorio.com, maps.decorio.com, and you go to the Order of the Towel over here, you can see a bunch of things, but you can see our resources here for our getting things done. And then the 5 steps of getting things done. There's also videos of David Allen describing this. There's a GTD Nordic podcast. And then you also have a bunch of Scrum resources in here as well. So this is the place to go for all of your various needs. The first thing we're going to do is talk about the 5 steps of getting things done. And the 5 steps of getting things done are just kind of like a mnemonic, like a way to kind of just be holding it in your consciousness and kind of even returning to like, are you actually doing it? And they go like this. The 5 stages. Oh, let's see here. We've got. Oh, wrong one. Stop the screen. Okay. So the 5 stages are capture, clarify, organize, reflect, and engage. Capture what has your attention, clarify what it means, organize it to a place where you'll be able to find it, reflect regularly on what you're doing and where your process is, and make sure it's current, and then engage and simply do. This last one, engage and simply do, is a superpower. David Allen calls this having a mind like water, and that's really what you're going for. It's basically like almost like a Zen use of your consciousness to put your energy on what has your attention. Is David Allen's like basic insight. But the place that GTD originated from was David Allen was an entrepreneur's entrepreneur. I think at some point he said he had like 20, 25 businesses that he had started in Ojai, California, landscaping, a whole bunch of different sorts of stuff. And he found after having to juggle all of these balls of responsibility for these different things that he found a single way, a single meta approach that he crystallized into getting things done. And after kind of mastering it himself, he started teaching it to other people, and he refined it heavily over the years. I learned it in about 2000. Was it 2000? Yeah, about around 2000, 2001. I was a manager of a section of a warehouse. I was in charge of all the inventory of a warehouse and following up with about 45, 48 different vendors that were supplying vitamins to our warehouse. And I had all of this stuff and all of this chaos in my life, and I didn't have a way of handling it all. And so I just said to the universe, I said, please, I need a system. I need a way. I need something. I need some way to keep this all in control. And like in 2 days, I found I was online at in those days. I found a download link for a full 7-day David Allen workshop that had just been recorded, and somebody had like just uploaded it. So it was all audio, and I listened to all 7 days of David Allen like teaching this thing, and I got a copy of the workbook. I was super poor at the time, so I probably couldn't have afforded to travel where I was, to go to these places or whatever. So it's really nice that it came to me in this form. But from listening to him and listening to his whole process, I was able to sort of start doing it myself. And I implemented the hipster PDA, which was kind of popular at the time, which was the idea that you could do the entire thing on a 3x5, or in this case 4x6 set of note cards, and that really all you needed was the right note cards. And so that's how this starts tonight. If you just have a piece of paper, you can get started with this stuff. The I learned GTD and I applied it, and it let me get my arms around all of the details that were swarming me, and I got that under control. I got that under control, and at the peak of applying all of this stuff, I was full time in school in my college program. I was double doing it, so I was supposed to be taking like 4 credit hours a semester, and I was taking like 8 credit hours a semester. Basically, compressed a 2-year program into a 1-year program for my master's, and a 4-year program to a 2-year program for my undergrad. So I took a ton of school in a short period of time. I had a full-time job when I was doing this. I was able to juggle all the details inside of that using getting things done. And I also was a full-time minister. And so Cheryl and I were ministers together at the time. We had a home church, and we would wake up every morning and serve the community communion, and we would sing at night. People would come over and we would sing psalms in the evenings, different songs, different simple songs, and we would teach classes about 3 days a week in the evenings and the afternoons. And so even with this massive schedule and all of this stuff going on, if you know what you're committed to and you track it, you can basically accomplish all of that and keep all of the everything on the rails. And getting things done is the system that I find that has the easiest way to do it. And so let's just jump right into it. Any thoughts? Any? I know just talking here. Guys, got any insights? Any thoughts?
Hmm. Uh, yeah, I love the hipster PDA. That's funny. Um,
Yeah,
the it is very easy to carry all these around. There's lots of ways to complicate the capture of important things in your life, and
yeah,
sometimes it's best to just cut out all the BS on your phone and go back to paper for a little while, get back to basics.
a great point.
I I think that is one of the insights that I picked up from going through this with you and your thing, because yeah, there's a million and one ways to capture notes on your phone in a bazillion different formats, and then also, look, Pandora's box over here. You can get way too distracted and complicated. This keeps you nicely present in reality to just be writing with a nice pen on some paper.
It's a very important insight, Peter, and I couldn't agree with you more. That was the reason why I had done it too, even before cell phones were like really crazy. But to just have paper and pencil, and the GTD system is a meta system. It doesn't actually tell. It says like what you have to do. It doesn't say how you have to do it. So you can apply it on a phone. But I agree with you 100%. I find there to be tremendous advantage to having a single text list of like things that need to, like the simplest list you can get for what's coming up next, and no distractions around it. The primary insight being that you take time to be strategic. We were talking about this in relationship to Scrum with when you're putting on the product owner role for Scrum, you're being strategic, and then you have this tactical part of yourself that actually has to deploy the work and just get the things done. And the thing that really gets most people, I find, is that they're just swimming in what's the most important thing to do next. Like it's Monday morning, and your first if your first job is to kind of try to figure out what's most important, you've already kind of lost Monday morning. Like what you should do is Friday before you go home, or at some point, have a review and be able to prioritize the stuff that you need to do so that it's in order. So that when you get to it on Monday, you don't have to decide what to do. You already know what that's going to
Yeah,
be, and then you just do it. Um, Especially
yeah,
in the morning energy is the evening energy is great for strategy, kicking back, relaxing. Morning energy is great for tactical.
yeah. The I think like when you have to start something that you left off like last week on a Friday or Thursday, Friday, whatever,
Hmm.
doing that compression of that knowledge and the prioritization helps you not only not forget stuff, but then yeah, not be stressed out as you're getting
Stressed
back
out
into it
because
on Monday.
yeah, that Friday weekly review, that process there, that what it does is because you have a system and your system has an area of radar around it, and you sort of draw everything in and you sort of clean it up and compile it. Because you do that, you know that from that point on, you've done everything. Everything that you're accountable for, you've accounted for, and you've got a next action recorded. Now, what's cool about getting things done is that it is that tactical strategic thing applied to your life. And so the first thing there, capture, on the 5 steps there, has to do with having as close to a single system as you can way to capture new inputs. So the way David Allen does it is he just uses cards, one per. So he'll pull out his card, he'll take his pen, he'll write down what's on it, and then he'll throw this into what he calls an inbox. An inbox is just one place to collect everything. If you don't have everything in your life in one place right now, a really fun practice is to get like one of those Home Depot buckets and just go around your house. And anything that is not furniture is not in the right place. And you can essentially take it's usually it's in furniture or decoration. You can take that stuff and you can put it in the bucket. And so essentially you go room to room, putter around room to room, and you get everything in one place. Now, at least psychologically, you have everything that you are committed to that has a physical trace in your life in one place. You might have like um, an inbox that has hundreds of messages in it or thousands of messages in it. David Allen basically suggests that it takes this first step when you first think about this process is called a mind sweep, and the mind sweep is the practice of getting it all in one place. Everything in one place. So you can start with just a single piece of paper and start capturing things on there. If you have cards, you can capture them on individually. But the mind sweep goes through your whole life and basically brings you current. And it takes, for most professionals, it'll take quite some time to get that done. And it's really worth it to get to the end of the process where you've looked at every corner of your life and anything that you've had a commitment to, you write it down. Usually when I say that, people will immediately have things that come to mind. When I would teach this in college, I would have people get out pieces of paper and just make sure they had paper in front of them, because while I was talking about this, they go, "Oh yeah, yeah, I got to go get cat food. I got to like get the car tires changed. I got to like pick up that baby diaper thing. I got to send my mom a present. My nephew's getting married." And then, so you sort of have this wave of you've just used your attention to do the radar scanning in your life. Now imagine if you captured every single one of those and had just like, a discrete entry for each and every single one. What you notice is that as you gather more of the frontline stuff, the deeper stuff comes in. Oh yeah, I wanted to go to college. Oh yeah, I wanted to do this, or I wanted to finish this certification, or whatever, whatever the bigger stuff is. And so that's another one of his insights, is that there's these sort of levels of focus that you have. That at the ground level, you have your calendar, which tells you where you have to be, and activities. And the activities are the stuff that you've captured and refined in the GTD process. And at the first sort of horizon of focus, he calls that the projects horizon, where at that level you're thinking about all the projects you're committed to. But you go one higher, and you have these things called areas of focus and response and accountability. So if you have a job, you're accountable. Or you have an area of focus, like at your home or your family, you're focusing on there. Or let's say you're trying to build or develop something, that might be an area of focus. So you have this map at this second horizon of these areas of focus and where you're accountable to yourself or to others. And then at the next level, horizon 3, you have like 1 to 2 year goals and like objectives. And at the next level, horizon 4, you have a 3 to 5 year vision or a plan. And then at the highest level, horizon 5, you have your overriding purpose and your principles that guide just like what you do and like why you do it. And so what this insight entails is you are in some way a set of your activities. Do enough activities and you're a teacher or a welder or a plumber. If you go in a certain thing, you can actually change like who you are. And so it's this triple stack. It really means something, because you're starting with the heart and you're bringing in social awareness and intelligence, and then you're adding this personal level of accountability and responsibility. If you simply capture what has your attention and then start to work that as a set of responsibilities, you will become a better person, because you're essentially following up on your word. And when you said something, you were going to do something about it. And even more subtle, when you were inspired or you felt the life that was going to bring to yourself or to others or whatever, you captured it, and now you're going to actually bring it to fruition. You respected it. It was made out of electricity. It was just a fleeting idea, but you grabbed that little stream of electrons through your consciousness and you captured it, and by capturing it, you got it on a piece of paper. Okay, capture is kind of the biggest one. We're not going to go on to clarify just yet. I want to kind of weigh here for a while. But whenever I find myself putting stuff in more than 2 places, I say, whoa, 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 whoa. What are you doing with your capture? If you have more than 2 lists, like I give myself a work list and a home list. That's it. And if I've got more than 2 lists that I'm working on, that's kind of too much, especially when I'm writing stuff down. So I've got my work list here, and my work list in front of me is all of the various things that I have most recently captured in my work. Peter and I do scrumming at work, and we're right in the middle of a scrum. We didn't get a chance to finish it, but all of these notes will become essentially entries into our product backlog there, and it'll work its way through the sprint backlog. But there is what's the right word for it? Capture is the most important part of this. Because what David Allen will say is the mind is for having ideas, not holding them. And you should only have an idea one time. Think about how you sometimes might use your brain as a nag system, where it just goes, do the cat litter, do the cat litter, do the cat litter, do the cat litter, and you're like, oh geez. I'm just using examples so that my immediate, I actually need to do my cat litter, so I was just throwing this out. So if my brain's doing that, what it's saying is, I'm the system, and it's not supposed to be the system. I am supposed to write, when I have that thought, cat litter. And I just captured it, and now I put that in my inbox, in tray. Okay. But that is, I'm going to organize that. I'm going to clarify that in just a second. But that would be like an example like of when you sort of realize that your capture is failing you is when your brain is having to remind you. So if you're mind like water, your mind has to be free, which means it has to be relieved of the responsibility of reminding you of what you're supposed to be doing. You have to have a trusted system that is what David Allen would call it watertight. Just these leak-proof buckets, like it goes into one place and you know that you're committed to it, and so you will actually process it and you will actually do it. Um, there is a when you're doing your original mind sweep, there's a lot of tools that can help with that, and David Allen actually provides quite a few of those. His company sells copies of these, which I would recommend anybody who is deeply interested in this to invest in. But you have this is the if you come to the Order of the Tau and you go to your Getting Things Done resources over here, you will find a bunch of stuff. But one of the things we're going to talk about here is the methodology guides that are here in this PDF, and that's this one right here. And so it's what has your attention. And so what you can do with the Mind Sweep is you can literally start here. Projects started, not completed, and you list those all out. You just think about those until you're done. Projects that need to be started. Look into projects. Just like I was kind of interested in resin tables. How's that work? You kind of capture that, right? It's just, dude, it's just one little thing, and you're not committing to doing it. You're just getting it out of your head into your system. We'll show you how to like prioritize it a little bit later. But then it's like very basics, like commitment to others, promises to others, like get your pen ready, your boss, your partners, your advisors, coaches, strategic partners, colleagues, subordinates, others in the organization, other professionals, customers, other organizations. These are if there's any commitment to any of those, it should show up and be captured in your system. I'm just going to skip around a little bit here, but like meetings, an upcoming meeting, it needs to be set or requested. It needs to be debriefed. Things that you might be waiting for, pieces of a project to be completed, information, delegated tasks, reimbursements, any tickets that you have to buy. You're probably reading through some of these on the screen while I'm doing them here, but this is a good example of it. I'll show you another resource. There is the if you come back to this, okay, this is the Getting Things Done resources. That's fantastic. And here's your 5 steps of GTD. Here, how to perform a mind sweep by David Allen. You could come in here and click here, and there's a little, we pulled an MP3 file of him speaking off of the website, and in I think it's about 20 minutes, he gives you his take on what a complete mind sweep would be. And what's nice about that, he goes through like every particular area of your life, and you pause and you just kind of think about it. But really what you're looking for is completeness on this. So at this stage, you're capturing in your life. I got my cat litter here. And you are also using like an incomplete project list to go through and think about all the things that you're committed to. If you don't have these lists, it's okay. Your brain will do this. Your brain will cough. Once you start capturing, your brain will just cough this back up, but you can accelerate the process and kind of make it just like a short couple days in your life rather than like a protracted month or two. It might be a little bit more graceful on yourself there. The next step that you get to is clarify. So I've got my note here and it says cat litter, but now really what I need to do is figure out what is it? What do I have my hands on? And for this part of the process, David Allen has a question that he likes to throw up called, is it actionable? This is another one of his guides. This is called the workflow map. And it starts up here with life's random inputs. And then it says, it asks like kind of what is this thing that I have in my hand? It's cat litter. Okay, cool. Question, is it actionable? Okay, it is actionable. But let's say it wasn't actionable. Let's say that I had a coupon for a taco. I'm just gonna say that someone was giving me the world's most fantastic taco coupon. It's just a taco coupon, and I was like, we got to use that taco coupon, and it's there. Okay, so is it actionable? By itself, it's not. It can't actually be done in its current state, right? So it can be there's this concept of reference. So you can actually come over here and like I could put it in a reference folder, or I could put it in a someday maybe like an incubation state where I would develop the concept. It's not completely ready like I could just throw this in someday. Maybe I care about a taco coupon, but right now I don't. I've captured it. I pulled it out of my head, but I don't care about the taco coupon right now. Or I could say, you know what? I need to be eating fewer tacos, and I could just trash it and like get rid of it. So you've got this. You've got these three very discrete states that you can go into if it's not actionable. But let's say that it is actionable. Um, the insight here to get to actionable for cat litter is what is the very next action? There's a lot of things involved in cat litter, man. It goes like this. We got a couple cat litter trays. You've got times of the day that you can get to the cat litter trays and not, because people might or might not be, they might not be in their workspaces. So you can't be on the Zoom in the back changing cat litter at certain times of the day. You need extra kitty litter, and in fact, I'm just realizing that I was supposed to order kitty litter the last time I did it, and I sort of got distracted. I'm realizing I didn't capture that correctly. So you've got to like make sure you have enough kitty litter. You've got to have the trash bags. You got to have. There's just a lot of stuff that can go into it, and you have to kind of reorder this stuff at the end of the process anyway. So it's not that when I say cat litter, I am like catching all of that. You don't need the whole project. You just need like the next action. And so the next action for that would be to scrape the kitty litter trays into the trash, basically. And so in David Allen's world, you would then, that's the clarification step to get to that next action. So rather than the 10 things I could do about kitty litter, it's really just scraping the kitty litter in there. Now, if I'm low on kitty litter, I'll see that later. That can happen, and that can be like a next action. So I'm not like mapping out everything I'm going to do. This is a very important point that it's extremely simple. What needs to happen here. So it's like what we've said is that tactical Paul doesn't want to consider what he needs to do. He just wants to actually do it. So you get that next action kind of statement. Next action statements are usually verbs. So scrape is the verb, and that one, scrape the kitty litter trays. The rule of thumb here for this stuff has to do with the 2-minute rule, and either do it, delegate it, or defer it. If it is a what's the next action? If it was this is where you ask the question. If it has multiple steps, like maybe installing kitty litter trays, you have to go research them or something, that might become a project over here. And the project support material kind of concept is over here. And the idea that everything you need to get your projects done kind of flows over to this multi-step thing. But it's just this one action I'm doing, which is scraping the kitty litter tray. I can either do it if it takes less than 2 minutes, or I can delegate it. No one around here to delegate it to. It's my kitty litter. I'm getting it. And so then I have to defer it. And then so there's two options here for deferring it. I can put it on the calendar and schedule it, but that seems like overkill for kitty litter. So I am going to put it onto my next action reminder list. So my next actions. David Allen has a kind of an older view of this, where for every next action, you can actually break it down into a set of what are called contexts. So the next action in this case would be under the home. Here, I'll just give you the list here. It's agendas, which are conversations you need to have with people. Anywhere, so it can be done from absolutely any place that you find yourself. Calls that you need to make, so it's usually best when you're in front of your phone and you have your headset on and such. Computer, have to be in front of your computer to finish these tasks. Errands, have to be in the car driving around to finish these tasks. These are all the different contexts one could find oneself in. Home means you have to be at the house. This was where kitty litter would go for me. My scrape the kitty litter trays. It would go in my home, but I could also go in the office, which is stuff related to work. There's a category called waiting for, which is, let's say that I asked someone to order kitty litter for me, and they were going to do the ordering. I might put it on here waiting for, meaning I could check this and see what things were kind of outstanding. There's also this super powerful list called someday maybe. Someday maybe, like back to my taco coupon, if I use my taco coupon, I might put it on the someday maybe list, which is I will potentially start caring about that at a different time, but not now. And that's a great place to park stuff. And then, of course, you got this projects list. And the projects list is the list that it can get very complicated in there. But what you want to do is just simply have a list of the projects that you're currently committed to. And if you're not committed to it, you can just say this project and put it on someday maybe. Maybe someday maybe I want to put permanent Christmas lights around the house. Not this year, not now, but maybe sometime. So I might say project Christmas lights for the house and put it on someday maybe. Now, the what I have done now with my kitty litter, because I captured it, kitty litter, clarify it, scrape the kitty litter trays. Now organize it, put it on the home context list. You can literally crush that all into a whole bunch of next actions, but eventually you'll probably want some contexts. You'll want a little bit of work here, a little bit of home here. What you really want is when I'm out driving around my car, I pull up my errands context, and I just like, oh, I gotta actually go to that place. And I did not, I didn't remember, so I like go there, do this, these, and when I cross all those off, I know. I also have and under errands, it can be like a shopping list. I will put that in there as well. And so I'm at the store and I can't remember, oh, it's shopping. I had that thought about kitty litter once 2 Mondays ago, and now it's 2 weeks later, I'm at the store. There, those 2 points in time were connected through a good system, and kitty litter is achieved. Like that. Okay, kitty litter achieved, and then I'm going to take a little breather here. Harmony, dude, in your life. The whole thing working correctly. You get inspired or you say you're going to do something, you capture that, you follow through with it. Following through with it means you have good character, and you are also developing your life of skills. If you're an employee, you've basically taken the job of micromanaging you off your boss's plate, and you just know what you're getting done and you're just getting it done. Your job with your boss then is almost to just explain to them what you've been doing and get any resources or additional insights that they might have. But they don't have to like micromanage you because they know you're on it, and you keep reporting back how damn on it you are, right? When I implemented GTD, I started getting promoted at work. Everywhere I've worked almost, I get promoted right up to the ceiling of where they're not looking for people anymore north of where I am. And sometimes I've strategically stopped myself from being promoted. I'm just like, no, that's not going to work out. But what I'm trying to say is, if there's a team of 10 and you're the one, the boss says, I need A, B, C, D done, and everybody gets little pieces done, and you actually get your A, B, C, D done like very rapidly, and you're like, what else can I get done for you? And it's like, that's music to the ears of the employer, right? Because like, not only that, but it's fun. Worst job I ever had, I only had for one day. I was working at a temp agency, and they sent me to be a janitor at the airport in Kansas City, and my job was to sweep, go through the trash cans and like clean up, like empty them, and then like sweep around the trash cans and start at one end of the terminal, and it was a horseshoe-shaped terminal, and then do it once, and then come back, and then that was the thing. And I did it, and it took me like 45 minutes to an hour, and my boss was pissed. He was like, listen, that's 8 hours of work. You gotta make that last 8 hours. You do it. I'm just like, dude. Like I went to the place that employed me, and I was like, I can't just stand around for 7 hours. That's like torture. Like, it's 45 minutes of work, but it takes 8 hours. And I just told them, I said, that's ridiculous. And they I'm sure someone got burned for that, but whatever. It was real shit. It was real bullshit. And what I'm saying is, if you're at work on a clock, get busy, because that makes the time disappear. Like you can, like, if you're busy, Peter might be muted there, but if you're at work, you can like, you want to be busy as much as possible. in my experience. Thoughts, feelings, insights?
Definitely want to be busy at work.
Yeah.
It's crazy that there are systems like that airport that end up so bent that
It
you end
was
up.
they were paid by the hour, so they took the smallest amount of work and stretched it out over the longest amount of time. That was in their interest. That's why it's so cool if you can figure out how to pay people just by the work. And it's like, listen, if you can do it in 45 minutes, I'm going to pay you for 5 hours. I'm going to pay you like it took 5 hours. If you can do it in 45 minutes, God bless. You have 4 hours and 15 minutes back in your life. If it takes you 10 hours to do it, maybe you should get better at what you're doing. It's like,
Yeah.
there's it's more efficient to be able to reward based on the things done rather than the amount of time spent doing them, which is what a work day is. But we'll get to that in our Scrum part of the thing here. But let's move forward. Cheryl, you any I know you had a story or two from last week that you were practicing that you wanted to share. Maybe we'll get a little time here that we can pop that in there. But do you have anything else that you wanted to talk about or add?
No, I just wanted to say this is great because I was with you when you first discovered it. We talked about it, but clearly, um, so much more clarity has ensued for you, and this is fun to learn about.
Yeah, totally. The I was pretty self-contained about it. Like I was pretty much just by getting things done. I didn't really bring it to the fam. We weren't really doing it together for a long time there. That was just kind of like my way of like getting stuff done.
I'm
But
remembering that you brought it to the fam, and I'm
did I?
remembering that we did filing systems and did all kinds of stuff that I could
Yeah.
never completely get to land. So I feel like after 20 years of you digesting it, um,
Yeah.
it will become actionable for me.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
I find it if you don't come up with a structure at work, I feel like you discover Scrum. If you don't come up with a structure for yourself, I feel like you discover GTD. Like you could just be yourself with sticks and rocks you need to organize in the middle of nowhere, and you'd probably be like, I need to like, right, have a structure. It's like the minimum amount of structure that you need. So I think it's like I think it's a more of like a reflection of the forces of the universe rather than an actual um, like top-down imposition. It's more of a bottom-up kind of way, which is very unusual for a categorical categorizing system. Um, so now what do I have? I have a list of my home projects that includes kitty litter. And so now the uh, now the next time I'm at home and I've got a moment, I pull that list up. What's at the top? Kitty litter. Great. Scrape the and it's not. It says scrape kitty litter trays, and so I don't even think about it. I go grab the scraper. I go grab the trash bag. I start scraping kitty litter trays. Before I know it, I'm done with it, and and then it's the cross off. Now there will be in my hipster PDA situation here, I will put a little line through it, or it'll be on its own page, and I'll put a line through it as well. I sometimes will throw some maybe I'll throw the page away, but sometimes I'll keep it around for the reflection page stage, which actually comes next. And this is best happens on a weekly basis. It's like a weekly review, and what you do is you go through your whole life and you grab all the little pieces of paper that you have spread throughout your life, and and then you anything that's sort of gotten out of hand or spilled over or anything like that, you actually put that in specifically all the stuff you captured inside your inbox, whatever that turns out to be, the one place that captures it all. You go item by item until your inbox is done, until you have everything processed. And what that means is that you're taking your original captured idea and you're thinking about what the next action is for that. Well, first you go through that little do I care about it or not? Is it actionable, right? So you pick up you take all of life's little random inputs. You ask yourself, is it actionable? That's a yes no answer. If it's no, it's either to the trash or to the someday maybe folder. There's another special kind of trigger called a date specific trigger, which could be like literally um, I think I might go to a concert in August, but I don't want to buy the tickets now. I don't want to go now. Okay, so maybe in like February, think about that concert and think about buying tickets again. That would be a date specific trigger. So those would be part of the two incubate ones. But and then you also have the reference. The reference would be like if there was an actual taco coupon, you might actually store the taco coupon. So that's your actionable. So if okay, so now it's you're here on the yes, and you essentially either do it during your weekly review if it takes less than 2 minutes, or if you have someone to delegate to that would do it, you delegate it, or you can defer it. You can defer it to a specific day and time. That's called a tickler file, and you can also put it on your next actions list. And on your next actions list, you can grab your context here of where you're going to grab it. I know it sounds like there's a lot going on here, but if you basically just get your context list down, you'll have a place to like park this stuff and it'll be great. So at your weekly review, you bring everything current. For me, I go through my inbox, make sure that's all current. I go through all the little notes that I have grabbed and I gather all of those together. I go through all the digital notes that I gather like that, all the physical notes that I gather like that. I'm looking for anything I missed in my inbox. I look for anything at work. Look through all our Slack. If I'm doing it for a personal project, I might look through Signal, which is my personal messaging. And then so I've looked at everything. And then and I have it all. It's all been collected and it's all been processed into the actual buckets that it needs to be in. What that means is I now have everything in my life either in the someday maybe folder or it's on a list with a next action. So I've really thought about what it is. And so what did you just do? If you did this, you've just taken a tremendous amount of energy and time in order to do all the strategic thinking. Now there's no more thinking left to do. It's all just tactical. If this list of next actions represents the next things that you have available that you're supposed to be doing in your life, and you simply go through them, you will have moved life forward exactly 1 week or more, depending on how hard you work. And then at the next weekly review, you're going to basically start this process again. The week itself will give you more inputs that you'll be doing. The amazing part about having this all done is that you then can start to be mind like water. And because I was in customer service a lot in my early career, you had to be mind like water, because if I was going to really be with a customer, I had to actually be present and not distracted at all. And I didn't get to decide when they came in. I didn't get to decide if it was a 10-minute customer, a 5-minute customer, a 2-minute customer, or a 2-hour customer. I didn't get to decide any of that stuff. So if in a 2-hour customer experience session of like working at Best Buy or the Geek Squad or in the places I worked in my early career, if somebody came up to me and said anything, I pull this out of my pocket and I write down what I need. Capture, 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 capture. I can stay with that customer for those 2 hours and like, oh my God, this guy's fantastic at customer service. Well, what did I do? I gave myself the time to engage with them and loop with them, and that caused the natural empathy and compassion of being a human, as we studied last week. And that means that it was natural, like an activity to support and help that human naturally flows out of there. And so it's effortless to be with people if you're not distracted. If you are distracted, people will murder you attention wise, right? Like you have to be lightweight, like when you're with them. You can't have your mind on many things, or you'll offend them essentially. You're not paying attention to them. They're wasting their time because they're not with you. You're not with them in a certain way. Thoughts, ideas on this? That gets us to 5, the engage part of this process, where we simply do. I'll pull those 5 back up here on the screen here real quick. You're getting the fast 1-hour download on this stuff, man. Capture it. What has your attention? Clarify. Process what it means. Find the next action. Organize. Put it where it belongs, such as on the calendar or on your next actions list. Reflect and review frequently, and then engage and simply do. If you were going to take a next step with getting things done, it might just be to do the things that we talked about on this. Like, this was seriously his whole, that was it. He has infinite detailed explanations for all of this stuff. And there's a raft of extra resources that you can do. But what I would suggest is just eat the meal before you that you've got right now and just try to integrate this kind of stuff. If you guys were going to improve your overall GTD-ness like system in your life, what would be like one next step you could take to do just that? Go for it.
Minesweep. For me, Minesweep, get everything in my whole life in one place.
I'm going to
And I
write
love what
down.
you said. The mind is for having ideas, not holding them. Man, you know better than anyone. My mind holds on to it. Repeat, 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 repeat. Drives us crazy. So,
Well, I never have thought of that example. It's so cool to have you in our little powwow class here session going on. I think that's um I just took when you said that, I'm gonna print you out a copy of my um Project Trigger thing, and then we can make sure you've got that, and so you can go through and go through the whole list for yourself. Um, yeah, the if you do this for yourself, you end up having more high quality attention for everyone around you. So it's literally a fantastic gift you can give to your partner, your spouse, your kids, your employer. You really do show up as a more deeply hoopy fruit, as a person who really knows where their towel is. Like you can that happens.
Happens.
That
Yeah,
happens.
so Mind Dump is definitely. I'm due for another one of those. I think I have tentatively been ballparking that for over this break, Christmas break.
Nice.
um,
Nice.
on a couple different levels. But yeah, that is probably where I'm at. That's the highest level one because I'm kind of at like a we're in an inflection point with the new year rolling. So kind of
Hmm.
getting to the end. I've been anticipating it, and
Yeah.
so it'll be brain dump and then back into it. I think the I have I have like list full paper lists and
Hmm.
and sticky notes that a system that I use for work to capture stuff. Um, and that's worked pretty good. I think I'm gonna keep that up going into next year. So yeah, and at
When we
home,
do,
yeah, I
yeah.
guess I still have like I've got this list. This is remainder of list for last week. Still have it around because I haven't cleaned the toilet, and haven't finished buying all the Christmas gifts. so
Perfect.
so that one's still there, but then I got pre the pre weekend list, and then the pre leave for
Checklists.
Bailey's parents checklist, and then the
Yes.
pre leaving for New Year's of
Wow.
my family checklist already
Dude,
going.
that means that if you want to go, okay, so if you want to like take off for the weekend, you just print that list and start checking things off. And when you get to the bottom of that list, you're ready to walk out the door, right?
Yeah, the templated lists like that are really nice. Yeah, definitely have that for like camping and whatnot.
Yeah.
This is definitely more
We
brain
use
dump
it.
slash
Yeah.
everything that possibly need to get done by this day.
That's good. More brain dump. That's good. I just finished a list I've been wanting to print for months. I call it the Midnight Bombers Baedeker. This one was one. And so, okay, so I capture things with my phone throughout the day. Like I will be somewhere and I'll just snap a picture or grab something on media and it means something, and that's enough of a capture point for me. I also capture verbal notes with song ideas or titles for albums or just all. It only happens one time in my experience. If you don't capture the idea, it just goes back into the library of the universe. It's not your book. You didn't check out the book. So my this list is the list when I can't sleep at night. I will go right to this list, and so I will process all my photos in. I will process all my recorded notes in. I'll go back and review my sprint backlog, my current one, and then I have a deep watch YouTube playlist that's like if you have an hour, watch this stuff, and it's stuff like how to get better at my music or how to it's like intense longer form stuff that I want to focus on that I need. It's more like classroom kind of material or whatever. But we use checklists for when we go to the grocery store. I use a checklist whenever I travel. If I ever have a travel date on, I just print it out, put the name on it, and I just start check. I just have a little table at my house, and oh, okay, I can like get 10 things done here, and so it's a week out before I go, and I'm half packed, because I just like I check that stuff off. Um, we do checklists, Peter, at work when we have a new person start. We're like a new hire. We go through like 120 plus items that need to get done before they're like onboarded. We have checklists for our weekly Scrum process that we go through, make sure we're doing the whole thing each week and such. Um, we got kind of interrupted today with end of the year festival holiday festivities kind of stuff, and we didn't get to finish our sprint, so we'll finish it our sprint review, so we'll finish it tomorrow. But the way I knew we didn't finish is because our checklist wasn't done. If our checklist was done, we would have actually been done. So it's literally like I can't say we did it unless I got this done. So it's like an accountability thing on some level too. You know?
Yeah, and there's
Um,
important things on that checklist. I love
yeah.
that the holiday festivities. There's people nuking their laptops right at the end of it.
They're like, I really want to go home fast, so I'm going to interrupt this update. And it just like, uh-oh, that's 4.5 hours of laptop setup you just caused. Wait, what? I was supposed to get out of here. Okay,
Happy
now.
holidays.
Karma's real. Everyone, treat everyone, happy holidays. Treat everyone nice. Treat everyone generously. Go smooth. Slow is smooth. Smooth is slow. Slow is fast. How's that go? What's that? It's that special operations thing. It's like they say basically what they're basically saying is if you want the whole thing to go well, go slow because slow is smooth and smooth is fast. Like if you want to get it done one time, go smooth and slow it down. So hey, if you went fast and it took you 3 times, that wasn't fast. That was 3x slower. you know? All right.
Yeah.
Let's look at our next section here of the thing. We've got Scrum. Scrum is the top part. So GTD is personal time and attention management, and Scrum, and we've just wet your whistle on this one. Get going, kids, and get that book if you want to dive into it further. And just there's like 10 ways you can throw yourself into it. Also, maps.decorio.com. There's a bunch of resources there. You really just get your life going, and when you're run into trouble, you can come back to this, and like it's good for troubleshooting. Scrum. Wherever two or more are gathered is where Scrum becomes the useful thing. And Scrum, let me see if I can. I'm going to try to share this. Oh wait, you know what? You guys will hear the voices when I hear the voices. Let me see if I can share the screen again. I've got a really quick thing on Scrum here. I think it's a video. Here it goes. Come on now.
Complex projects can lead to real headaches. Organizing the team, changes
Sorry. Here we go. Starting over.
in scope can lead to real headaches. Organizing the team, changes in scope, roles that aren't clear. But you can change that with Scrum, an agile framework. At its foundation, Scrum can be applied to any project or product development effort. Here's how it works. A product owner creates the product backlog, a prioritized wish list. During sprint planning, the team pulls a chunk from the top of that list and decides how to complete it. The team has a set time frame, the sprint, to complete their work. They meet in a daily scrum to keep the work moving forward. Along the way, the Scrum Master keeps the team focused. At the end of the sprint, the work should be potentially shippable. The team conducts a sprint review on the product and a retrospective on the process. Then, they choose the next chunk of the backlog, and the cycle repeats. With Scrum, you can ensure the most valuable work has been completed by the time the project ends. Tackle your
All right. They're gonna tell you more about the Scrum Alliance there, but the Scrum Alliance is a cool. What's cool about Scrum is it's open source. The Scrum Guide is open source, and Scrum is one of these processes that literally tens of thousands of teams have implemented and taken what they've learned from it and put it back into circulation. So it's a very honed process. It is it's powerful, and it's
your projects.
Some ways it's very simple. Let's look at like the big structure here. So there's these roles. That's your product owner, your Scrum Master, the person who leads the sessions, and then your product, and then your sprint team itself. So the sprint team are the people that actually do the work, but they don't decide what work to do. That work is decided by your product owner. Your product owner makes a list of everything that they would ever like to have done, and then they put the most important work on the top. And so when you come into a sprint plan, the product owner brings the sprint backlog, and so you take the first item off of it, and you ask the sprint team, hey, do we have the right people here to do this? Can we do this work? And if the team agrees, yeah, we've got the right people to do this work, then that goes on to it goes from the product backlog into the sprint backlog. This process repeats until the team feels like it's filled up it's filled itself up in terms of the like you set a limit of time for the sprint of like 2 weeks. So they'll just keep going until they get to that 2 week mark there. So they say, okay, that's good. That's what we need to do. And that's a negotiation kind of between the product owner to make sure that that's an honest, right amount of work, and that these guys are happy with it. The Scrum Master is leading this process, and then the Scrum Master starts the sprint. The sprint then goes for 2 weeks, let's say, and the team meets every day to make sure that they're making progress and to talk about anything that's getting in their way. The Scrum Master is there to get rid of the blockers along with the product owner, to try to help the team be as successful as they can. And the team's job is to have something to actually ship or show to a customer potentially that they would buy at the end of this process. So a part of that's on the product owner to put the most important work that will be deliverable for this. But as long as the product owner has that in mind, that there's got to be something that a customer will need or want at some point here, then if they're getting what they want, then this process is correct. It's working. Now this part includes the customer. The retrospective can technically include the customer, but on the retrospective, the team takes a beat to think about how the team did the work and what could improve. So one of the core concepts of an agile mindset is inspect and adapt. Inspect what is and adapt. And every single time you do something, you can take a short beat afterwards. After action review is what's called in the military, and they do it after every activity, organized activity they do, and they learn something from it. If you can have your team or grab one thing in the next sprint that they will do, then part of that product backlog becomes the team improving. Say the team decided that standing desks were important or something. And then so everyone's like, yeah, if we had standing desks, we could get this like so done, like so much better. It would be helpful in some way. So you can part of the work of the team is to make the team better. It's not just something that you do once. Make the team. You are maintaining the team in this retrospective process so that when you get to the sprint, the team is highly functional. Is the concept here. So let's start. Let's talk about work. And work starts here with this thing. This thing is a steam engine. Let me see here. Didn't mean to click there. This steam engine, oh, you know what? I'm looking for this pointer that I couldn't find. Now I can find it. Now I got the pointer. There's the pointer. There we go. Okay, the steam engine. What is a steam engine? A steam engine is a little chamber over here where you put something that's going to, when you light it on fire, burn. So it could be wood, but coal is the thing that we kind of settled on in that. You can light coal on fire and it'll burn for a long time. So you have this chamber where you're burning that material in there, and you're putting water in. And when the water hits the burning material, it turns into steam, and as that steam expands, it pushes this piston up. That piston turns this flywheel, and the flywheel essentially you've turned heat into motion. You've converted one force into another. This system, if it is very, very efficient, does this without losing a lot of energy. And if it's not very efficient, it loses a bunch of energy. And obviously the first systems lost a ton of energy, but they got better over time. But this is a basic way to turn fire into physical motion and labor. This was resulted in the Iron Horse, named because everything before this was horses. Horses were the things that moved things from place to place. Imagine if you had a big old rock in your front yard and you wanted to get that rock moved. Well, you're going to need a horse, a cart, and some friends to actually get this thing like kind of moving around and stuff. It's not going to go well if you don't have those things. And so your ability to move that rock is going to be based on how good a horse you have, how many friends you have, a whole bunch of stuff. Now imagine that if you could just get the rock onto the train would then, the Iron Horse would then move it potentially thousands of miles. Think about how hard it would be to move a rock thousands of miles by cart. No rocks got moved in this way because it's extremely difficult to do. It's not the fun. So the Iron Horse opens up this possibility of moving heavy things like raw materials great distances. And this results in the creation of the first factories. And here we see the first factories in England. You can see these great long houses where all of the where everybody lives. You can't really do this without a good supply of gin. So you got to have like some gin stills. And these people aren't very happy. It's usually just dudes, and they're getting drunk to basically handle this situation. You have the trains bringing in the raw materials, and the laborers come over and they actually do the assembly and the work in the factories. And then the finished products go back onto the trains. So the big insight here is that the trains bring in the raw materials, and you concentrate all this labor in one place. And through many years of experimentation, the world tried different ways, but Henry Ford is widely credited with having perfected the assembly line. The concept that you have a single flow of work, that all of the laborers stand to the side of it, that each one of them does a small piece of work that contributes to the whole. Now I want you to think for a minute about what this person's father or grandfather, the way that they worked. Because the way that they worked was very, very different. Right before this, you had the guild system, and in a guild system, you go get your raw materials. You refine them into whatever you can refine them into. You produce the object or the thing that you're going to sell potentially. You then go to market and sell it. And when it breaks or has problems or anything along those lines, you actually get it returned to you, and then you fix it, and you're sometimes the only one that can fix it. There was a whole trend at this time in the world towards standardization of like the screw. Imagine if you had like, I made something and I used like the Reverend Paul screw in this thing, and only Reverend Paul knew how that screw was made, and so you had to come back to me to like get it to imagine the difference you can make by standardizing this, by having one type of screw that would be universal. We kind of forget, I think, in our modern world how we've done that to like so many different things. When companies don't do it, like when Apple comes up with a lightning cable and a Thunderbolt cable, and then the EU puts down their foot and they go, no, 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 you're going to make that USB-C so we don't like just have the world filled with cables. And they were making money off of those proprietary cables. They like that. They like that model. But that would be an example of a regulation that got them to kind of do the right thing, which was a USB-C cable can move the data. It doesn't need to be a proprietary standard, more or less. And so standardization like this, in the guild system, you had a very strong pride of ownership. A single person in the guild system was responsible for the entire life cycle of the product. And so you really knew that product, and you were a master of that thing. And that's how your family survived in a lot of ways, be that cattle or carpentry or, at this time you're getting the invention of the car. And so, you get engineers, you get automotive mechanics, but when there was all horses, there was an entire industry of horse related, raising the horses, training the horses, cleaning up after the horses, bringing in hay for the horses, tending to the horses, healing the horses, fixing the horses. There's like there's a ton of this stuff, going on. But what the critical piece here being that the reason why you needed all that gin for these guys is that when you put a human on an assembly line like this, and you reduce their activity to just turn this bolt or do this one sort of thing, and they don't have pride and ownership for the whole process, you lose something. And it was kind of through many, many decades of doing this kind of manufacturing that it evolved. And it evolved into many different frameworks, but the one that gets a lot of press is the Toyota Production System, or TPS. And that was the idea that each person on the assembly line would care for the process, and so much that if there was a defect that they saw come through the line, they would have a special cord that they would pull that would stop the line, that management would swoop in and inspect the defect and figure out why there was this defect, and they would like correct it. And then this is why the Japanese car manufacturers took over the industry in the 70s. In a time when you didn't have a pride of ownership in Detroit and in the US car manufacturing sectors, and you had cars that would literally come off the line and not work, you had Japanese manufactured cars manufactured to this standard where the individual person on the line is considered a craftsman, woman, person, a craftsman of talent. It was enacting their talent and had responsibility for it was essentially putting the responsibility on the entire group of people for it to be successful. And so not only did the cars roll off working off of Japanese lines, but they didn't need that many repairs. And they went lots longer, and people got more value for hauling around themselves and their stuff from that increased quality on there. But we're not quite there yet. We're going to take a little trip through some other types of project management here for just a moment. This is Gadget. Gadget is the device that is being made in the movie Oppenheimer. Oppenheimer is the story of the nuclear bomb and bringing the nuclear bomb into existence. And to make this is many times when you study project management, Scrum is a kind of project management. when you study, or not, they would hate that word, but it's a way of making a project happen, essentially. The project management, PMI, Project Management International, the body that sort of puts together the knowledge of project management, it's like a big certification you can get and stuff, is really good for large projects with lots of moving parts, very complicated. It's what you use when you build a building or a library or a currency or a dam. When you definitely use all of the phases of their 9-phase model when you do something big and integrated like that. But most people have smaller projects. The Manhattan Project was not an example of a smaller project, as the reason for it was that Germany had the world's largest supply of uranium. They had the fissile uranium is the thing at the heart of a nuclear bomb, and they had more of it than anyone. They had a head start, and they had scientists that knew this kind of stuff. And so the story in Oppenheimer, the movie, is quite wonderful in this regard, in that it kind of dramatizes the process of Oppenheimer as the leader of the scientific lead of the project, like going through and essentially getting all these people on the same page. They needed a place to do it. They'd never done anything this big or coordinated before, so they chose Los Alamos. Los Alamos is where the Los Alamos laboratories are now. And the Los Alamos laboratories are where so many, just billions of dollars of funding gets poured into this one zip code every year. My wife does work there. Cheryl does work there, and goes there from time to time. And it's so funny to go to their science museum, because I think they have the most science per cubic foot in the science museum of anywhere in the world. The science teachers in their high schools are triple PhDs kind of people. What's it like being up there in Los Alamos, love?
People are ridiculously smart.
Ridiculously smart. That's right.
Ridiculously smart.
That's right. Very, very, very smart people. And that is exactly what the Manhattan Project did. It took all the smart people and it put them on top of this one plateau. Now, before you had spy planes and satellites in orbit, you could put something on top of a very high cliff and it was secret. And so that's the whole thing with Los Alamos, is that you essentially put it on top of that thing. You put one gate in front of it. What you see here, what you do here, what you hear here, when you leave here, let it stay here. They got an enormous number of people coordinated for this project in this one particular location. This is the shack here today. The thing that was happening was you were integrating all of these different things that were necessary to make the world's first nuclear bomb. You were integrating the chemistry to refine the uranium, the electronics that go into the detonator to time the split millionths of a second chain of reactions that needs to happen to get atoms to actually break into other parts. You have to get all of the engineering for how to put encasement around all of this stuff. You have to engineer it to the specifications of the planes that it's going to be loaded onto and used towards the end of World War II, when the only two nuclear bombs that have ever been used on civilian populations were deployed in Nagasaki and Hiroshima. This was part of the events that ended the World War II. The thing that usually gets left off of that list is that Russia had many 35 million people, I believe, that they used to stop the Nazi advance as well. That is a significant contribution. It usually doesn't come up in the history of the nuclear bomb. It's always like nuclear bomb did it, and there's different thoughts on this. The nuclear bomb did play a major role, especially in the post-war era. There's a lot of historians that feel like it wasn't the swinging factor in World War II, as we're sometimes taught in the United States that it is. Although, let's just say it was a big factor. And you have these areas here that are basically that are all coming together. You also have to bring together the people. So here's the actual picture of Oppenheimer, what he looked like. This is Wesley Groves, who ran the military part of the operation. This is a young Richard Feynman, who would go on to win the Nobel Prize in studying the nature of the electron, I believe in 1965 or so. But here's him as a kid. The Los Alamos Laboratory was a network of secret laboratories. There were 37 secret laboratories in total, with Los Alamos being the key integration place. But these places are still around today. You've got Oak Ridge, Tennessee. It's close up to where you are there, Peter. And that is still a massive uranium refinement location in the United States, kind of stockpiling thing. Here's all the little
It
pieces
also
here.
has the world's largest supercomputer, like, as well in Oak Ridge right now.
That's amazing. When we signed nuclear ban treaties and essentially stopped um, blowing up nuclear bombs, there was a campaign of mothers who people were blowing up nuclear bombs, boom, and it shoots all this radioactive material into the atmosphere, the layers of the stratosphere. It circulates the Earth and then it redeposits. Basically, when baby teeth were coming out, they were radioactive because they had nuclear fallout in them. And it was basically showing that even when you set off nuclear bombs in one part of the world, it spread all over the whole planet. And so there was this huge campaign of mothers sending their children's teeth to the scientists. So they actually banned. Okay, no more above ground. And then they all went underground and kept blowing up underground to kind of contain it. And then they stopped the underground tests. The reason they could stop the underground tests is because computer simulations got to the point where you could simulate nuclear reactions in silico. So the entire generation of nuclear weapons that's been developed and not tested is not live tested in a certain way, comes from computer simulations. So that would be why Oak Ridge has that cool computer, I would guess.
Probably.
Totally. The three strongest computers for a while were called Red, White, and Blue, and they were all involved in that basic physics of like trying to figure out nuclear detonation. The number of people in 1942 when the Manhattan Project started was 150,000 people, and it ballooned up to over 600,000 people by the end. It was the largest number of people that had to date been organized. And one of the tools that they used to organize these humans was the Gantt chart. The Gantt chart existed, but what a Gantt chart does is it shows you a timeline of activity. So back to our GTD thing, this would be sort of like your projects, right? Like you need to do the research on the nuclear physics to make sure this thing actually happens, right? You need there's for example, let me give another one here. Here's the implosion type bomb design at Los Alamos, and here's the gun type bomb design. This was Fat Boy and Fat Man and Little Boy. Those were the two nuclear devices that were detonated, and we actually got to see them when we went to Los Alamos. You can actually go to their science museum, and they've got replicas of all of this stuff, and they're very proud of their history there. It's incredibly fun. It's very, very, very educational scientific trip. But in any event, when you get right down to it, at the very bottom here, everything comes to a head on the 6th of August 1945 and the 9th of August 1945, Hiroshima and Nagasaki. It's all for this one event that changed the way the world worked and changed the history of the world, because what it said was that when you can put these explosives on a plane and later on missiles and then on submarines, and you can distribute your submarines where people can never find them and they can never be destroyed, so you can't take them out. What it means is that politics went from being next door to the whole world. And the whole world is now in play. And that we are coming out of that phase now. Like it's been all these weird wars the America's gotten into that are basically useless, don't have a lot of need, and kind of I don't think anyone agrees are great. Aspects, of course, are always demonstrations of courage, and there's always good things that come out of bad things. Think of the American Legion and the Boy Scouts and Boy State. That all came out of something nasty. But you can get good out of it. But in general, I gotta pull this back. This is where I turn to my class and ask what I was saying about. Politics, right. The politics in general, that's right. You have to think about what the United States is going to think about everything, having nuclear weapons. And then when Russia creates nuclear weapons, you have to think about what Russia thinks about everything. And then China gets nuclear weapons, and then India gets nuclear weapons. And so now the world's a very different place because of the proliferation of these things. The scientists that were involved, that you saw the pictures of there, they started this thing called the Bulletin of the Atomic Scientists, and they have a clock, kind of like a doomsday clock, that shows you how far from midnight that we are. And we currently are the closest to midnight we've ever been in the history of the clock, with the current conflict escalating in the Ukraine-Russia thing, with Russia being a nuclear power, and the United States essentially providing the long-range missiles and the satellite guidance to those missiles to have them strike deep into Russia. It's like the equivalent of, there's almost no proxy. The United States is like in a hot war with Russia. We built these missiles in America and they're flying into Russia, and it's like, this is a terrible idea. And this is all, some people, this is all allegedly, some people theorize that, there's a part of our government that wants to stay in this war and is escalating because they're trying to make it a hot mess for Trump when he comes in, who's been talking about peace and wants to actually strike a peace deal with these groups and not as sacrificing more human life. So anyway, all goes into the big mixing pot, this whole big crazy thing. Obviously, we're not making nuclear bombs out here. We're doing smaller things like, a summer concert. So this would be a Gantt chart that you might see in your backyard. But here, some of the concepts here are these, like, book musicians. Book the venue, do promotion, do tickets for the site, and you can see that, like, there's kind of a chain of events here. So you've got your bands, you decide on the bands, you review the contract, you do the negotiation, the band gets signed, and that becomes a milestone. So this would be an example of a kind of a more set of milestones that you would see. These are Gantt charts are good when you have a lot of things and you need to be able to show like 600,000 people. You need to show them something to show where they fit into it, and it's a great tool for that. The modern world, and especially now that we have AI taking over everything, the modern world changed again in 1970. Wait, let me just put a little pin in this real quick here. So the way that you did projects before you had automation and standardization was one person did it. In our triple stack, we're only on level 2, right? The assembly line is kind of like where 2 or more are gathered from an industrial perspective, yeah? And now you got to coordinate all this activity, right? And so you mechanize it and you make people cogs in a wheel and you get crap cars. And so somebody's like, well, let's make everybody really proud of what they do. Let's bring this, the spirit of Kaizen and continuous improvement to this. And the Toyota production system is born. And they make the best cars in the world that last forever. It's like, and they get great mileage and, very excellent performance. And they outperform their competitors, essentially. And this changes the way we do it. Then there's this global conflict, and someone's going to invent the nuclear weapon, the nuclear bomb. And so America gets on it and gets 600,000 people together, 1,000 scientists, and watch Oppenheimer to see it dramatized. And then they split the atom. And then they split the atom in Hiroshima, and they split the atom in Nagasaki, and the world's like, wait, what? And then it changes the course of history. And then we invent something that changes it again, and that's the personal computer. Before the computer was personal, it was small groups of people that ran computers. And there's a huge and wonderful, cool history of how that goes from being the computer that takes a floor to the actual personal computer that you can put on your desk. That's for another class. But this guy, Winston Walker Royce, wrote this paper called the Managing the Development of Large Software Systems in 1970, and he had a series of diagrams of how software gets made. And because so many systems come out of computers start to take a more central role in databases for healthcare records, for Department of Motor Vehicle records, for anything. Before that, it was paper-based, and you hit the limit of paper. You can only do so much. So the reason we can record, 3,500 points of data for every website that every human visits in the world, and multiple companies record that, like, the reason we can do that is because it's electronic and it weighs nothing. If it was someone sitting around writing it down, it'd be too expensive. And so what you're really seeing with the invention of the computer is the acceleration of the administrative state. Some people think that election of Trump is the reduction of the managerial state. And so it's kind of like fighting back the computers. Like we have our own Butlerian jihad like kicking in out here in these streets. But anyway, Winston Walker Royce. There's a fascinating little sub-story here I'd love to take you through. First, he said, you know what? You write software? First you do an analysis, and then you do your coding. That was literally how he was like, you're done. Go home. Enjoy your beer. You're fine. He was like, but you know what? People probably are going to want a little bit more than that. So let's try to give people what they want. Let's try to give them a little bit more than that. So system requirements become software requirements, get analyzed, because through a program gets designed, it gets coded, it gets tested, and then it becomes operationalized. And when he was presenting this particular concept, there was a gentleman, I believe it was a gentleman, although it could have been a lady, I don't quite know, but probably this time it was a gentleman, who was a consultant with the McKinsey Company. And the McKinsey Company was in the business of helping managers come up with structure in their workplace to manage their workforces. And when this person who was in the audience saw this, they had a brain flash that actually changed the world in a slightly different way. McKinsey was ultimately responsible for this type of project management called phase gating. And phase gating goes like this. Have a phase of work, and then get a bunch of experts in the room to tell you if you can pass to the next phase if you've done it. Then go to your second phase and hit another gate and go like this. This particular approach was credited with the destruction of the Challenger in 1986 when I was a kid. And I remember sitting up in my chair and being like, oh, like there was a huge change to the way projects were made after the Challenger explosion because of this one detail. And it went like this. In phase one, everybody knew that when you're building the rockets, they've got these rings on them and they got an operating temperature and it's this temperature and you can't put them outside if it's under that temperature or they'll shrink and they won't do their job because they're made of this kind of rubber we had to choose. So they knew that. But by the time they got to the end phase of launch, those people had been sent home. And so they weren't in the room. And so in Scrum, we talk about kind of like a horizontal process of getting the Scrum team is horizontal and there's no hierarchy in it for this exact reason. That what you want is the guys and the gals who built the rings to be there on launch day and go, hey, you can't launch today, it's too cold. Like you want them to have transparency in the project so they can say that. And they didn't say that. The rings shrunk. Gas got from one part of the engine to where it wasn't supposed to be, and the Challenger exploded, and the whole world kind of stood up and was like, wait a minute, what? Now, that unuseful kind of project management came from this human, this Mackenzian human who was in the audience, and essentially, because this particular slide here was on the screen, and this was known as waterfall. Waterfall was that this thing happens up here, then it flows into this thing, then it flows into this thing, then it flows into this thing, and it goes down. There's a one-way kind of move. Now, on the very next slide that Winston Walker-Royce showed to everyone, he showed that there's actually a two-way process here. That once you actually develop the thing that you get and you put it into operation down here at the bottom, you're then now just starting the second half of the process. Now you have to go back up this way and you basically iterate. This iteration concept was in here from the absolute beginning of this thing. And so that is not an easy thing to sell. And so a company that sells managerial services is looking to package something simple. And so they oversimplified it. The reason why Winston Walker-Royce had this waterfall cascade slide happening was because he had to produce this stuff on acetate and he didn't have Photoshop. So he literally he would have rather had this been like on a single line, but he had to do it like this to fit it on the single piece of acetate that was the overhead slide that he was kind of showing. So it's kind of crazy, like these turns in history. Like that's what it hinged on, and a big,
is the message.
The medium is the message. Further, Winston Walker-Royce had a lot of different things that he broke out in here. He would have like even just this one area, preliminary design, he would break it out into a bunch of different subsections. Some of these areas had like processes that would start and then feed out into other parts. And when you put it all together, it looked like this. And that is not very sellable. And so the saleshuman, simplified it to this thing that wasn't actually real. Made some assumptions that weren't real. But in right here, Winston Walker-Royce says that you should involve the customer when at all possible. And these insights, this is 1970 now, and this was a set of insights that governed the management of large software systems. So your software is now controlling these big engines and these big things in your society. And so if one person changes a 0 to a 1 inside of a computer, you've now changed like the whole game. It's crazy. So it's literally, we all say everyone's out here using Google, or more than 3 billion people use Google. More than half the people online use it. And some engineer there changes a 0 to a 1 and it breaks Gmail, the entire world. It's like there's the influence, dude. The influence.
Yeah. Power dynamics changed for sure.
Absolutely. Before, if a single person could affect the people around them, Now a single person can affect the whole planet based on how it's rigged, you know? It's
There's a
wild.
lot more gravity in this system. A lot more people depend on it.
Yeah. This is 1970, and this goes along for a while, and lots of things get done with this concept. Big companies get built: IBM, Oracle, Hewlett Packard, Apple, and these project managers in these giant tech firms, they realize that this is working up to a point, but now we're starting to see something new, and the old ways of thinking about this are not actually working anymore. 14 of these humans got together in Aspen, Colorado, just down the street here from me, in 2001, and they asked each other what's working and what's not working. And they came up with this thing that they called the Agile Manifesto. And their insights were that individuals and interactions should be valued over processes and tools, working products over comprehensive documentation, customer collaboration over a contract negotiation, and responding to change over following a plan. While there is value on the items on the right, we value the items on the left more. And you can see here that at this stage in development, as we're talking about this, it's not black and white rules anymore. It's individuals and interactions over processes and tools, meaning that if you want to get your thing done, lean into the individuals and the interactions that you're having. Don't lean into having the perfect set of tools or the perfect set of documented processes.
Right.
Have something
Getting
work.
frustrated over that. Don't let that block you from stuff.
Yes.
Positive interactions with people.
You're going to get more done with the individuals and the interactions than you will ever get done with the tools and the document and the processes. The working product versus the comprehensive documentation. No one cares about comprehensive documentation for something that doesn't work. The only thing that they care about is what works. So there used to be a heavy emphasis in programming on documenting everything. Now the programmers are just pumping it all into AI. That entire phase is over. Like there's like, the AI will write documentation, but it's it even needs even less documentation these days because you can kind of like just ask AI to like produce it at any point. Customer collaboration over a contract negotiation. So working with your customer face to face and rather than negotiating the finer points of a document that you will bond you and describe what you do will be preferred. That you'll respond to change, meaning you'll keep your ear to the ground and you'll keep, inspect and adapt, and over following a plan. And this is the Agile Manifesto, and this is the essence of the Agile mindset. We've seen this do a lot of different things in our world. There's evolutions of it. I am curious. Mark Andreessen's been on this speaking circuit talking about Elon Musk and how he's gotten so much done with his agile approach to Tesla and his agile approach to SpaceX. And now he's got the Doge coming online. He's going to be even more unrestricted, less restriction, regulation. And so he'll probably be able to even do even more cool stuff. But yeah, I am very curious to hear how the cutting edge builders in the world are distilling all of this like these days. I've heard he has kind of like a hybrid of a couple of different models, and I've studied earlier models that he kind of published of his stuff, but apparently he's onto some new stuff. So we'll keep our ear to the ground on that. We're now looking at basic Scrum here. We're looking at the Scrum cycle, and this is composed of the 3-5-3 of Scrum. There's a few ways to describe it, and the Scrum guide has added some extra things, but this is kind of the standard here. You've got your product owner, your Scrum master, and your Scrum team. You've got the 5 events of the Scrum, which is the sprint itself, the planning session where you decide what will be done, the daily Scrum that coordinates the work, the sprint review where the product is presented to the customer or to the people who did it, and then you have the retrospective where you look at the actual process of doing the work itself, getting better at your craft. And the 3 things, the artifacts, the 3 things you can always lay your hand on: the product backlog, the sprint backlog, and the product increment. So the 3 roles here: your product owner manages your product backlog. They are the owner of that. The Scrum Master is owns the events, and the development team owns the work that will be done. They also own the sprint backlog. The Scrum team does, and the Scrum team and the Scrum Master own that. The way that these things kind of work is you start with a plan. You do your daily Scrum, a daily Scrum. This would be like a week sprint, and then you have a review and a retrospective. This would be an example of a 1-week sprint. And here's those 3 artifacts: product backlog, which is the organized, prioritized wish list of everything that'll ever happen, the things that you're going to get done right now, and then the increment, the thing that you did that you can actually show. There's a couple of core insights in scrumming. One we've talked about, which is the idea that if you don't scrum, you'll discover scrum. If you don't have a way of tracking what people should do, you'll invent one. If you have multiple people that are asking for things, eventually you'll settle on one person that asks for the things and is kind of in charge. You'll probably come up with a regular timeline to do it if you have a productive, like if you're actually making things like happen. But one of the other insights of Scrum has to do with this concept of how goals are set. So this would be maybe the goal of go to launch the Challenger. That's the goal. So what we do is we start working, and then we work up towards the goal of launching the Challenger. Now that's complicated, right? So another insight has to do with this concept that whatever you are doing inside of your Scrum, or whatever you think you need to do, like when you think of it like this, you'll think, oh, we need to do A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L. What you think you do can have up to a 16x difference from what you actually do. That there's this huge cone of uncertainty associated with this because you don't know what's going to happen over here. You have to make all the assumptions up front. In traditional project management that doesn't iterate, that doesn't have a Scrum cycle in it, which is classic PMI project management, you start and then you sort of break up good milestones and then you get to it. But the Scrum has a different insight into it. Let me see, I'm kind of doing this out of order, but this is its primary insight. That instead of having just one distant goal, you actually break it up into smaller goals. And this has a lot of advantages. One of the main advantages is that if you make progress from A to B in your first sprint, you then have something to stand on. You have an object that you can actually put in front of someone. And so if you think about this in terms of producing a piece of art, if you're in the first model, you have to know that if you want to be efficient, every single time your brush touches the page, it has to render the perfect image here. It has to give you exactly what you're looking for every single time. Of course, this is not how people work. People do not have dead accurate estimation of what this pixel will be in the final stage. That's just not how we function. That's not how things get done. In the second model, you're looking at just come up with a simple version of it. So you have this woman in a pastoral setting and you iterate and you get one of those. Then you go to your customer and you say, do you like it? And they say, yeah, I dig it. Cool. What would you like different? If you could change anything about it, what would you change? They say, well, maybe could her hands be in a different position? And you say, yeah, let me go do that for you. You go do that, and then you come back and show what you did. You notice how you're not getting too far away from it here. You're not taking too big a leap here. You're just changing hand position here. They say, great, that's exactly what I was thinking. That's great. What else would you like, Joel? Can you do color? Yeah. How about this? I like it. Can you do a different set of colors? I sure can. And then you keep going until you get your Mona Lisa here, until you get your masterpiece. The concept that's being unleashed here is the concept of an MVP, or a minimal viable product. The idea is that you figure out the 20% that gives you 80% of the value. So 20% was the lines and the general form, and that gave you 80% of your value in this first iteration. So you didn't need anything else but the general outline, and that was enough to get this thing going. So what ends up happening is that your traditional approach delivers starts to kind of go here. Your MVP might be here, but when you get the 80% of your value comes in at 20% of your features here. So I was maybe saying that a little bit backwards, but this is the 80-20 rule. And so basically you ship when you have about 20%, when you have this, you've got 80% of your value on the page. Now, if you do this, what you end up doing is delivering at 20%, delivering at 20%, delivering at 20%. And this is where Scrum can get you to 200%, twice the work in half the time. This is kind of one of its kind of core insights. Thoughts on this, Peter?
thoughts on that? 10-20% of the time.
Well, that or just the whole process up to this point, I guess just the what's it like? Okay, if you have you ever worked on a project that just had like a long, distant timeline and you never got to the end? And you ever worked on a project that sort of chunked it up into smaller
Right.
pieces to deliver?
Light at the end of the tunnel is always better than no light.
That's true.
Uh, so chunking it up definitely.
Co-
What is it? Lots of people talk about being if they're like trying to bodybuild or
Hmm.
exercise, um, breaking stuff down into smaller pieces because
Hmm.
you want to be able to have the satisfaction of accomplishing, reaching small goals instead of like imagining something that's really hard to exist. So rather than uh well, yeah, do it rendering a simpler version and then building upon that is a lot easier than laser jet printing or whatever.
Yeah. the,
But
y- in this model, you have some place to stand. You start with nothing, and then you have this. But if you have the picture of the woman in a pastoral setting, you then have that. That's what you're doing. You're now that's what you now have something to wave around in the world, and that changes the way you see the world. And now you do it again here. You've made something new, and now that changes how the world works. You might try this out with customers, and they might all move to this whole. This might be a whole new way that they're kind of moving, which then informs you about what the next step is. So this slide shows the road, but you can kind of imagine in your imagination just not even knowing where the road goes after there. Maybe you've got some distant sort of but you're not sure how that path kind of goes, you know? So you discover it like as you go. When you when you Scrum itself is open source, which is very powerful, and anyone can go to the scrumguides.org, and you can literally read the entire definition of what Scrum is in like 2 or 3 pages, and that's it. That's what it is right now. It's very dense, and it kind of describes like some of the more technical jargon around how you sort of put layers around that. But in the end, it's very 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 simple in the sense that what it's attempting to do is simply come up with a list of things that should be done. Oops, wrong share. Let me pop that over here. In the end, it goes like this. You have a list of everything that's going to get done and someone that cares about it. Call this a project originator. This is the first person who cares. They make a list of everything that would need to be done to get to some goal. They then get together the people that might do this work, and those people are assembled for their varied skills. You kind of want a team of experts that sort of the broader the knowledge that your team has, the more things you can bring to them. But you really want to kind of can't try to keep it on that team. Um, it's better to have that knowledge on that team and be able to actually deliver it. You'll be able to make much more great products rather than there being delays in coordinating with external humans. It's the coordination piece that gives you the value here. You get those people together. Someone's in charge of the event, the Scrum Master, and their goal in that first meeting is to come up with a sprint backlog where they are taking the first item, and if they can finish it in 2 weeks and they got more time, they can take the second item, maybe the third item, and then those are the things that they're on the hook, that the whole team is on the hook together to do. So when they've right-sized that work, they work for 24 hours, then they meet and they do what's typically called, it can be called a stand-up, although it has different names. They call it a stand-up so that it lasts a very short amount of time, and each, say it's 15 minutes total, and there's 7 people on the team, everybody would get 2 minutes, not much more, because if everyone takes 2, then you're at 14, and you're basically, you're done. So you put the timer in, and you can coordinate a large number of people in a short amount of time, and what they're telling you is what they got done, what's in their way, and what they're working on. Those are the standard 3 questions, and you can do a lot of variations on that. You then continue to meet daily, meet daily, meet daily, meet daily in this sprint process here until you hit the end of your sprint, which is a time-bound event of, let's say, 2 weeks. You go over what it is that you have created. You show it off. You basically review what has been done. You bring customers and you show it off on this level. Then you come back and you think, what was working? what wasn't working, and what are we going to change inside of here. This sometimes Cheryl will call this being plus delta. What plus positive could you bring to the process? And then what change or delta would you bring to the process? And there's usually one in there about what has been working great. We just want to continue it working. How might you say that, love?
Excuse me. Plus would be what's working, what do we want to protect, keep, safeguard. Delta would be how could we be more effective? What might we do more of or less of?
Yeah,
Eliminate or add.
perfect. So you take that time and you reflect on the team, and if the right people are on the team, and if you got the right skill sets. There's a kind of a set you can the Scrum guide has like a set agenda for each one of these meetings, and and when you get those things done, you are scrumming. We've got just 10 minutes here or so left in our time, and I was wondering if anybody wanted to share any stories. Has anybody been practicing their looping or any of their heart math? How's that all been going?
Hmm.
I know that whenever I think about looping and social intelligence, it brings it higher up in my consciousness. And I found myself when I was out and about in public paying attention to people more and really trying to do what Martin Buber said about thinking about the person behind it, not the function. And so we were out doing errands, and I wrote myself a little task where I'm like, let's look at this collection of humans. These aren't clerks. These aren't cashiers. These aren't, cart attendants. These are humans. And it's just like everyone's got a whole inner world, and they've got a whole inner thing going on. Even just simple insights like this, it makes you think like it's not just my cart I'm interacting with this human for. This person might know a joke or something, or.
I can share. I felt like Saturday was a game changer because we
Yeah,
went out, we went to Snooze and did errands and
which
I
is a breakfast
was
place.
yeah, and I was practicing what you had talked about, connecting with people, opening your heart, seeing them as more than their role. And I intentionally wore a fun hat, which I always associate with you, Peter, and Bailey when you came to visit. Fun hats. But this was a like a Viking hat with horns, and I got more people laughing about it and connecting with it and thinking it was fun. And it just allowed me to feel like I was connecting as kind of a fun human.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I
You
really
you
enjoyed the
were
entire day.
we were sitting at Snooze, and we were both laying it on pretty thick, and our
We
waitress
were.
came our waitress came over, and immediately she was like what's different about these two?
They're
And
so
then
nice.
she like we like drew her. We were just looping. We were just paying attention to her and treating her like a person. She's like, this is so weird. Like she sat down, kind of like kneeled down next to the table, and then we sort of got her off her game. And when she stood up, she whacked my water over, and it spilled my water. And I was so just looping with her that I had a long shirt on. I just like put my arms and just stopped this tidal wave of water in this one little area and like contained it. And like it was like cleaned up in like just a few moments. And it was like there was no conscious thought required to intervene on her behalf and like help her because we had time. We're paying attention. I see you. I notice you. I notice you. I feel you, and I act to help you. That's the triple stack there. The layers. You Yeah. Good.
I was just going to say, I have always admired my grandpa, who was a Methodist minister. And I remember as a girl being incredibly awestruck at how thoughtful and nice he was to waitresses or waiters and um, how he would stop to pick people up and take them where they wanted to go. And I remembered thinking, what is it that's so magical about him? And I think it's because he was practicing relational intelligence
Yeah.
and really cared and took time, took time.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So I
Yeah.
remember as a little girl thinking, I want to grow up and be like grandpa. So kind
That's
of
cool.
connected me back with that.
It's so important. And I bet everybody that he interacted with felt, we'd say, seen or understood or loved. Whatever, if love is an abstract idea for you, one thing that's always helped me is that it starts with attention. And so, the first step in love, whatever you're loving, you're paying attention to. And so it's there's a focus that starts the process. So if it's an abstract thing that you're trying to love rather than an easy thing like a person, then you start by paying attention to it. Say you're trying to love your driveway. You just gotta like look at your driveway a lot first, to like, take the next steps. Then you capture those thoughts, like you're driving somewhere, like you're gravel, and you write it down, and you're like, go find gravel pit pricing. It's like you capture that. The what we're going to do is we're going to all take a little beat here. If you would like to explore these concepts in greater depth, we have provided a like 4-hour version of this thing. The last time we recorded it, we recorded lots of information, and we put that all here in the order of the towel at maps.decorio.com. And you can we have these 2001 labs where each one of these that's about 12 hours worth of content inside of there, where we were going through this. And you can see every ton of resources that we've like laid out for you. So we've kind of have only 6, we did this in twice the time. And so we got, maybe 75% of the content in here, but there's other stuff I'd love. A definition of done in Scrum would have been nice to get more deeply into. We've just opened the treasure box of tools for getting things done. There's this whole thing called the natural planning model, which is an easy like turnkey way to do a quick project management structure. There's all sorts of, Cheryl, you brought it up, but it's been more than 20 years I've been practicing GTD, and I am continuously learning new stuff about how to apply it. And in my life, the stuff I could get done started out like this, and then it's just gotten like this and this and this and this, and now I'm like kind of surprised at the stuff I can do. Sometimes I'm like, you can do all that stuff? Like, we're going to go out on some music here that I just made this last weekend. And that took like a couple years of getting my vibes and chops going and going in the right direction and getting all the right tools in place and everything. And you can do anything you want is the key to this. And this brings us to our final installation of our class. And so, oops, that's not what I wanted to do. That works in a different mode. This is what I wanted to do. I'll turn me off. This is our towel. The towel is, oh, wait, you know what? Oh, so crazy, Paul. All right, there's another way I can turn this on. Inspect and adapt, dude. Here we go. This is the new version. This is the 2.0 version. So here we go. We've reached a world that is in balance. We've got this happy squirrel. He's got these friendly cactuses. He's looking at this. Somehow we've got this symbol of unity here, of oneness. There's a cool UFO coming out of there. Some of the UFOs in the sky. Apparently some kind of interstellar travel happening. If the whole human race got their SHIT together, like collectively, this is what Jordan Peterson's always pushing for, then we would essentially be living in more of a heaven state together. There would be more deeply hoopy fruits out here. So we're going to digest this stuff. If you want to go deep, you've got hours and hours and hours of content for us. And we in the new year, we're going to be getting some sprints on the schedule where we're going to do like at least 1 or 2 maybe sprints together, where we will have our own activities and items. And we'll be like a little mini Scrum team, but we'll be, kind of focused on developing any aspect of the triple stack. You don't get something for nothing, and you've got to keep working in order to make it functional. It doesn't do itself. There's no system that will do that for you. You got to keep watering. You got to keep watering those roots. We're coming to the end here. So you're starting in the heart. You've got your vagus nerve open. You've got your social intelligence, and you're bringing in the power of your social. You are a social being that has access to a lot of things. A lot of wisdom other people have flows straight to you through this network. When you get inspired, you're capturing that. You're going through the 5 steps of capture the item, clarify what it means by identifying the next action, organizing it into a context that makes sense to execute it in, reflect on that regularly, and then simply engage in being with your getting things done. And then you hit your level of your Scrum up here, and your Scrum is your 2 or more are gathered. You get your product owner, who's got his product backlog. That backlog becomes the useful time that a team will take to develop those products and bring them to market regularly, or just be doing awesome stuff in a group. There's more details in that, but that'll do us for this particular thing. This is one approach to the world. This is our favorite approach to the world. The towel has come out of many years of training hundreds and thousands of students to do this kind of stuff, and this has been, I found, the way to motivate myself and others the most. And so, Love, if you participate with our sprint and actually practice your triple stack, we'll get you your first towel. Peter,
Woohoo!
I wanted to let you know that I was thinking about all the awesome stuff that you've been doing in your life, and you, sir, in this last year became a Scrum Master.
Did.
And I've got a pin coming your way for your towel that you've actually mastered the art. You were introduced to it a few years
Fun.
ago. You've been practicing it well for many years. I've seen your lists in your life, and I've seen the effects that it's had. You organized chickens around you, new dogs. Hell, your marriage was like very inspired by your structure and your process. I saw you get married this last year, and so that's what it's really about. We don't do this for fun. We do this to have more life, like more awesomeness, more goodness around us.
Yep.
So
Helps you wrangle the chaos.
wrangle the chaos. Any final thoughts, insights?
Oh man, great stuff. Glad to be here. It is really it's a very simple system that layers very nicely, and it definitely I can attest to the fact that it works. Yeah, definitely took Bailey on the ride this year, planned our wedding using some of these techniques, and
You
yeah,
guys NPM'd a lot of things in there. Yeah.
built a whole rite of passage for ourselves pretty much on these rails.
You are in the right crowd because the missus and I met over a rite of passage program that she created, and that's what we sort of fell in love doing, was setting that up for others and going through it ourselves as well. This is very cool stuff. Well, blessings everyone on becoming a deeply hoopy fruit, on getting your towel. If you go to maps.decorio.com, you get involved with us, you do this stuff, you watch this stuff, I will send you a towel. I can send it anywhere in this planet. I'm Fruidly. I can make this happen, you know. So get in on it. Come meet us. Come hang out with us. We're having a great time. It's really open to the whole world. It's remarkable who will show up. If you feel the call in your heart, show up. Let's see you. Let's get some stuff done. Blessings, everyone. Have a fantastic holiday. And Peter, this was a big goal of ours, was to get another one of these sessions, get these 3 sessions on the thing. So congrats. This was great to get these all done and get these out here. And I'm looking
3
forward to our
years
sprints.
running at least, right?
Yeah,
We've done
that's
this
right.
3 times, but maybe it's 3 times in 4 years. I don't know. Or
And
is
I
it
did
3
some for
times
some
in
other
3 years?
groups that I went through it with as well, which has slightly different naming, but it
Okay.
was many times, and this is the first time we've publicly done it where we broadcasted to the whole world.
That is
So people just wetting their beaks on this to order the towel stuff. We'll see you around. Maps.decorio.com. Get involved, and blessings on your towelage.
Bye-bye.
Bye bye.